Holy crap, I never expected to be making this video so freaking soon, but with one of my most overly hyped games, and with it right around the corner, I want to hype you all up with me. Now, a few of you may know what I consider to be my first video of the channel, that being a 30-minute retrospective of the game Alan Wake, my all-time favorite horror game, and even one of my all-time favorite games in general. Now, with the release of the sequel, Alan Wake 2, less than a month away, I thought I had to get you all hyped up with me. But this is droning on well long enough, so let's just get right into what I think we should expect from Alan Wake 2. That was crackhead energy. Hopping right into things, it has actually been a lengthy why is that popping this off? Hopping right into things, it has actually been a lengthy 13 years since the release of the first Alan Wake game, being released back in May of 2010. Sure, we got a side arcade sequel in 2012, along with a remaster a year or so ago, but we have had more Alan Wake action since then, as with this, there is what I would call the Remedy Trilogy, which a video about that should be coming within the next week or so everyone look out for that. But the Remedy Trilogy are 3 games released by Remedy: Alan Wake, Quantum Break, and Control. Control actually having an Alan Wake DLC called AWE. But all of those games actually share the same universe, all through those AWEs, or Altered World events, which are what both Alan and Jesse deal with in their respected games. In Quantum Break, though, it has its own certain connections through TV shows and time travel. Look out for my Remedy Trilogy video, though, to see more about the connections and shared universes between those 3 games. Back to today's video, though. It has been over a decade since the first and last main Alan Wake game, and I say it's about dang time, as on October 27th, oddly the same day as the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, but we finally get a sequel to some of the best storytelling I have ever experienced. Really quick before we get into things, I just want to say that if you like this video and you want to see more, don't forget to hit it with a like and subscribe now to stay up to date on all of the videos to come. Right back to it though, from what we have heard and seen, we will be following a little bit of the original story, but mainly branching off from those 3 games I mentioned. And even a little bit of American Nightmare, that side game released on Xbox Arcade. So I will say now, if you are not familiar with those games, you may be a little lost. But with Quantum Break, you could find a TV trailer displaying events from a book that Wake actually wrote, being the Alex Casey series. And so they are investigating the disappearance of Alan Wake. In this trailer, you will see agents in what looks like could be Bright Falls. Casey is not only using the clicker from the shoebox, but from the darkness, Mr. Scratch emerges. Mr. Scratch is actually Alan Wake's evil doppelganger. Scratch ends up murdering Casey, leading it to the end of the trailer where Wake can be found in an evidence room reading pages of the infamous manuscript. As he reads, the pages describe the same events, just with Wake in the place of Mr. Scratch. This show is called Return. The show is called Return in Quantum Break, and is actually the same manuscript being written by Wake and Zane in the AWE DLC of Control. Now, there are a bunch of connections in between the 3 games, probably pointing towards Alan Wake 2, but this connection is more than a connection. Circling back to Alan Wake 2's story, from the trailers we have seen and what we've heard, 13 years after the disappearance of Alan Wake, there is a ritualistic murder that occurs in Bright Falls, causing the FBI to investigate, only to find a world of horror instead of Wake. Now, the FBI agent in question is Saga, not Casey. But what that would lead me to think is Casey was written into existence, and yeah, Wake can do that if you look into some of the files found at the FBC in Control. But Casey was written into reality, and the murder we see in Quantum Break's return trailer could actually be the events of the Alan Wake universe, and Saga, the FBI agent, has to go out and find out what happened to her partner, or just someone else in the FBI. Now, we also see Wake in the trailers, seeming to be in quite the distress, still being held captive by what could either be Scratch or even the FBC in some means of corruption where he is required to write his way to freedom. This also brings us back to Control, where Wake and Zane discuss writing Return to get them both out of the dark place, as both have been in contact with Scratch. So maybe this will show Wake and Zane, both being doppelgangers, trying to write their ways out of the dark place and finally defeating Mr. Scratch. Now, what's cool is Remedy has actually told us that they're going the route of Resident Evil 2, giving us two different single-player stories. One depicting what happens to Saga, the other one Wake. So we will get to see both sides of a very intriguing sounding story. I cannot wait to see what they do with Wake and Saga, along with Mr. Scratch or even Thomas Zane, and the characters outside of Alan Wake as well. But really quick, I want to shift things over for a second to how I think the gameplay will be from what we have seen. Honestly, things look pretty similar, still using your guns and flashlights with some obvious additions and improvements, along with certain things that the separate storylines have. And it seems like we will be fighting a new type of enemy in this entry as well, probably still being affected by AWEs written in by either Wake or Scratch. And of course, some needed aspects of the original game still shine through, be it the return of the manuscript pages or whatever. But honestly, I think that the story we have heard so far, plus what we can pull together with the other games, it all sounds so good. And if you know my thoughts on the first Alan Wake, you know that I think it unironically and jokes aside has some of the best writing and storytelling of any game I have ever played. And I really just hope that the sequel story will be just as good. Off of the topic of what we should be expecting from the game, I now want to move over to the development side of things, as this is one of those games that had a pretty interesting development. So brainstorming for the game started shortly after the release of Alan Wake. They obviously knew that Alan would have to be the protagonist, but they wanted to explore Alan's friends and family more in depth. They also wanted to bring in an antagonist that was not your usual monster, but something with more meaning behind it, creating Mr. Scratch, Alan's metaphorical evil side brought to life by his own writings, being the actual evil twin. An early build of the game was showed off eventually, which I do remember seeing all over the internet at the time, which means that build must have been leaked. But with low interest along with low sales from the first entry, Alan Wake 2 was actually shelved, moving main focus over to Quantum Break. Most of the ideas they had for Alan Wake 2 then went into American Nightmare, that side Alan Wake game, which was released 2 years after the first game in 2012. Years later though, Alan Wake Remastered was released, and with the praise and hype that Alan Wake ended up receiving, along with the other Remedy games, they knew it was time to finally unshelve the project. Funnily enough, Alan Wake 2 had a codename in development being Project Big Fish, showing that this was an important project for Remedy, and with American Nightmare, a lot of the ideas for Alan Wake 2 were also put into Quantum Break with the Return trailer, which I think is a way bigger deal than anyone could have expected at the time. Although with this, a lot of the scrapped ideas, or just ideas that would have not fit as well into the first game or the sequel, were then integrated into, as I said, Quantum Break, but also Control with all of the Thomas Zane dialogue along with the Oceanside Motel. But aside from all of that though, the development of the game was pretty usual, so I'm just gonna go ahead and wrap things up with my hopes and final thoughts. I've said it 1,000 times before, probably in this video alone, but I absolutely love Alan Wake. Maybe not for the gameplay, or the graphics, or the voice acting, as all of those things could have been better, but I loved it for the total top tier written story that the game had. At the time, I had not played anything else that drew me in so deeply. And not only that, the fact that Remedy gave us a horror game that relied mainly on storytelling instead of the usual overuse of jump scares and gore. And they did great. So all in all, I just hope we get a sequel with just as engaging of a story, being able to draw me in for hours to an end, playing through the night to avoid any real encounters with the scary shadow people. And sure, I hope we get some great gameplay and mind-bending survival horror action, along with some better controls admittedly, but really, I am just looking forward to playing through whatever those two stories will be getting us into. And honestly, I think that's all I've got for this hype up for Alan Wake 2, and I just hope all of you are a little bit more excited now too. But yeah, now that we are here, I want you all to let me know what you think about Alan Wake 2, so throw any thoughts about the game, this video, or even me in the comments now. And definitely keep your eyes out for both my Remedy trilogy and my Alan Wake 2 videos. And if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit it with a like, and if you want to see more, don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the new videos. And if you enjoyed this video and want to support more, or even something crazier, then check out a membership to either my YouTube or my Patreon now to get your name at the end of every video, some other perks, and as I said, to throw support the channel's way. But as I said, if you are here doing what you do, that is plenty, so do not feel pressured. And lastly, if you heard any music that you enjoyed in this video, then go ahead and check out billythewhip.com or just Billy the Whip on any music platform to hear something new. And now that we are here, thank you all so much for watching until the last second. To those who are seeing this, you know what? Comment something absolutely, completely random right now, and I will know you are one of the true fans sticking out until the very end, and everyone else will just think you're crazy. But anyways, thank you all and have an absolutely amazing day.
Billy the boogeyman coming for you. Look out for the pigs, look out for me too. Been chewing them up, spitting the new, spitting the bones, pushing the noose, squeezing the game. Been making that juice, no need for the pulp. I'm spitting that too, rip it through. Anyone dripping through hoops, it's emergency, man. Sending the truth. I'm on the offensive, so don't.